Hello people. So I did one video on manifestors. I'm going through the types. This one is going to be on pure generators. There's a bit of a discussion in the human design community about whether pure generators and generator manifestors are the same type or whether they're different types. I mean, that distinction doesn't really mean anything because the human design chart is what it is. And we make those distinctions out of it. Of course, having a manifestor throat or not having a manifestor throat is a huge difference. But it is possible to create categories out of other defined and undefined centers. So it could be a pressurized individual with both the root and the head defined, and an unpressurized individual. What I'm saying is that it's not as though this is decided, I don't believe. These are the distinctions that we make from the chart. But I will talk about them as separate types because I've had separate experiences from them. The generator manifestor with that throat defined, I've observed very specific things that I haven't gotten with the pure generator. I talked about the manifestor and how they don't respond. So someone says something to them and there is no response from the manifestor. Obviously, the generator is completely different. Not only do they have the sacral response and they have that easygoing connection with people, but they don't have the throat. The defined throat creates a very specific thing. It creates a very specific kind of perspective and message that comes from the person. A very specific energy. But pure generators, they don't have that. And you can see this in when you deal with them and when you see them as celebrities. I realised when going through my celebrity charts that a lot of the ones I've taken were actually generator manifestors. I assumed they would be split, but there's not a great deal of generators there, and that's a bit of a surprise to me. But it's obvious if you think about it. The generator manifestor is everything. They've got the most definition, the most presence, the most kind of self there that's right in your face. And you can see how these people, when they're interviewed, they've got something to say, but they've still got all this generator energy that relates them to the real world. So they're not head stuck in the cloud people, and they're not I just kind of work and don't think about it people. Even though generators aren't always like that, they are a bit like that. One of the celebrity type of people that I've seen that's a pure generator is Andrew Torber. Andrew Torber runs Gab, and I was watching a video with him where he was talking about how a lot of negative actors that he is acquainted with were behaving, a lot of governments and things trying to shut down social media and corrupt other social medias and all that kind of thing. He runs his own social media, by the way. It's called Gab, and it's very right-leaning and free speech orientated. But he said, the only thing I've got to do is carry on working because all these people are making so many crazy mistakes. Every time they screw up another social media, we will get loads of followers, so I just carry on working. It's said in the human design that generators are the type that's here to work. So the sacral center in any type that has the sacral center, so both the generator and the generator manifestor, are the type that's here to go to work 9 to 5, come home and that's it. So work and sex was how Karen Curry used to talk about it. And every generator I've ever known is very hardworking. They work over the 40 hours. They will do hours now, shelf stacking, hours and hours, computers, hours and hours, doing some entrepreneurial thing. Whereas the generator manifestors tend to reach to a kind of work-life balance. The pure generators are less like that. In that way, the thing that makes them distinctive in a sense doesn't tend to be a presence of something, it tends to be an absence of something. Without the defined throat there, like I said, there really isn't a message, and there isn't a message coming from them that you will tend to be in conflict with. I have got in a lot of arguments with people in my life. There's a lot of people that don't like me for whatever reason. And I've known a lot of generator manifestors, as we all have. They make up the majority. But I would say there's often this point with a generator manifestor, and I will talk about this in their video, where the situation has got to a point where they need to express something. They need to say a message. They need to clarify something, and then they refuse to do it. And that's where the friendship ends or things start going really wrong. And I think that generator manifestors, this is also obviously something I'll talk about in their video, especially female generator manifestors who are trained to be kind of submissive, tend to try and be pure generators and tend to not want to express anything. But I've got in similar arguments with generator manifestors and generators. But the generators I've got in an argument with, it's not quite the same. There was no moment where I said something to them and they really should have said something back. The conflict is definitely there, and maybe there was passive aggression or some other issue. But it isn't personal in a sense. It's just them being a little odd and being a bit disrespectful, and me not putting up with it. Things like keep cancelling arrangements, things like that. So they're quite social. A lot of them that I've known have been on the more sexual side of things. I knew 2 guys with desire motivation that were very motivated by that. I mean, I know it's a common thing with guys, obviously. It's a common human thing. But it was a higher appetite than even the average guy, it seemed, with these 2. And again, I say with the generator manifestor, there tends to be this emotional element or higher element that you're also talking to them about. Whereas with the generator, it's just like, oh yeah, life is like this, and I'm going to go and do this thing. And, oh, okay, so you clearly have a sexual focus. And there's nothing personal to that. There's no philosophy that is going to come in like it might with the generator manifestor. They do tend to conform. They do tend to like exercise and guy activities and sports and stuff. Andrew Tate is a generator. Rollo Tomasi is a pure generator. Christine Grace is a pure generator. Carla Rueckert was a pure generator. David Boreanaz was a pure generator, and James Randi was a pure generator. James Randi is a good example. Before he got into disproving the psychics of the world, he challenged Harry Houdini in his escape attempts. He was, I think, hung above Niagara Falls in some sort of contraption that he had to get out of. And I think James Randi kind of shows something about the pure generator in that he ended up having a message, and his message was, be skeptical. But his message came from just kind of engaging, just kind of doing. There's a psychic, you go to the psychic, you disprove them. So you're responding to the world. You're not coming out with a message of, oh, this is the correct philosophy. There's not a defined throat there that talks about objectivism or any particular thing like that. He's literally simply responding to the psychics of the world. Carla Rueckert was kind of like a projector added to a generator, so she did have a bit of a message, which wasn't energized. So there is a bit of a message there. But we can see in how she was in the world, in how she behaved in relation to the law of one, that she very much did what needed to be done. And she responded to the world. She didn't direct things too much. A lot of these examples are like this. like what is Andrew Tate's message, even though there is a message there which is very grounded, very animal, it's also very much to do with simply adapting to the world and doing what you need to get rich and stuff. There is less real philosophy there, as I would see it. In essence, it's the type I understand least, in a sense. Like, I understand the generator manifester in that they have a conflict between those two, and as a manifester, I do understand that conflict because I am subject to the generator world. I don't understand that conflict so much as something coming from me, but I do understand the conflict with the throat. And the projector has the open sacral, the undefined sacral rather, and that processes them to think about things in a certain way, as it does with the manifester. But the generator is literally the opposite of the manifester. The manifester has one message, and it's a kind of higher energies message because it's higher in the body. The generator has more of a lower and an activity based message, a real world objective based message, and so they're just doing that one thing. And for this reason, I think generator and manifester can get on very, very well, the pure generator and the manifester, because there's not a lot of complexity there. In a sense, there is a less complexity than there is with either the projector and the generator manifester. With the generator, they're living in the world, they're doing their thing. Of course, there's going to be big philosophical things that they have to deal with and whatever, but where they are most of the time is they're just kind of working, just kind of living, just kind of being people. The manifester is the same kind of thing, but different. So they're the outcast, and they are not necessarily going to be working all the time just because they're undefined sacral. But they've only got kind of one mode, and that's expressed from the throat. So a conversation between the generator and the manifester might work very well. It's like, what's your perspective on this? And then they each have a different perspective, and it's each a singular perspective. There's not that much complexity coming in. Whereas both the projector and the generator manifester deal with two worlds. The generator manifester deals with the real world, the generator world, and then their manifester inner message conflicts with that. And these are the most tormented people that I've found in my life. When they get it right, they tend to be very powerful, productive, and almost angelic, I'd say sometimes. And when they get it wrong, all of that energy just goes in the wrong way. And the projector is stuck between two worlds as well, because without the sacral, they tend to become more spiritual. So they are kind of spiritual in the same way that the manifester is spiritual, but it doesn't go in the same direction as the manifester. The manifester can't really connect with others, so when they're spiritual in a very direct way, whereas the projector is constantly negotiating with others. Others are a thing to them, and so they have to navigate both this spiritual world they're living in and the other people that they're dealing with. So it's a similar thing. The generator manifester and the projector, they can also have this very productive discussion. I would say that young male pure generators are the type that is most likely to rebel against their type. Young male pure generators will tend to want to go out and look for women, and they will think that that's easier to do if they're a manifester, and so they will say, I'm a manifester, and they will try and do it a manifester way often until it doesn't work and really screws up their lives. I can't say from personal experience that I've really met a generator, pure generator, that's worked it out. And that's because generators are easygoing people, and they do the thing, they adapt to the world, and if they get married, they just kind of continue being nice even when it all goes wrong. In a way, the pure generator is a resource that society needs. We wouldn't be able to survive as a society without generators out there shelf stacking and whatever they're doing. These people working crazy hours, if they literally just stop doing it, the society itself will collapse. Of the more productive jobs, you can only have a small decrease in productivity, and about 10% of the workers in your entire society can start to crumble. In a sense, I would say, of the people that are inclined to try and rework society in the best way it can be, that society's goal, society's job in a way, is to make the generator's life as good as it could be, because that is the pure resource. You know, getting married, working through your life, and kind of not asking too many questions should be a behavior that is rewarded, and we know that it isn't. But that doesn't mean that it will always be like that. So anyway, these are just some thoughts, and thank you for listening.